transmission. And then we'd have a layer of glass over that. And finally, if we wanted to go super detailed, we could even layer on some dust or dirt onto the glass. And our layered material is going to make that nice and easy to set up. So let's do that. We want to start over here on the base material layer. And we have only the one option here to add a material. So let's do that. And if we grab this guy, this should look very familiar. Back over here in the basic tab, you can see this is just a standard diffuse material, which we can change to any other material we like. But we'll leave our base layer as the diffuse material because this is going to be the LCD screen below everything. So it doesn't need to be reflective. We'll add a layer of glass on top of this. So I'll just go off screen here to bring in an image that we can apply to our LCD screen. And this is just an image of the Octane logo, but you can use whatever image you like. Then we'll just plug this into the diffuse channel for now so we can see that on our screen. And it's looking good so far, but our laptop screen should also emit light. So we need to add some emission as well. So let's go back to our node editor here and make a bit of space. Then we want to plug our image into the emission channel. But to do that, if you remember, we need to head over to the emission tab and we'll bring in one of the emissions. We want to go with the texture emission, which is always way too bright at first, but we'll fix that in just a second. Let's first plug our image into the texture slot here. And then we'll click into our texture emission and we need to bring the power way down. Let's try something like 1. And it's still looking pretty bright. So let's just adjust this slider here. Something like that. And just to check we are getting some illumination in the scene from this, I like to turn the scene light off. And we are definitely getting some light off this. You can see it illuminating the floor and the keyboard down here. All right, let's turn that light back on. And this is looking pretty flat at the moment. So we want a nice reflective layer of glass over this. And rather than modeling it and adding a separate material, we can do everything directly in our layered material. So let's head over to the layer 1 tab this time. And we'll come down here and add another layer. And we want this to be glass, so we're going to go with a specular layer. But before we do, I'll just point out that we've also got a sheen layer here and a metallic layer, which are subjects we've discussed earlier on in the course. But we've also got this layer group. But just so we don't get confused, we'll leave that for now and come back to that in just a sec. So let's just grab our specular layer. And straight away, we've got our layer of glass. And we can see our scene light being reflected in the surface here. And we could grab our specular layer, and under the specular tab, we can just bring this down to soften that reflection. And when we're happy with that, we could take our layered material one step further and add an extra layer of maybe dirt or oil or something on this screen. So let's go back over here and make a bit more space. Then we'll click on our layered material, and this time onto layer 2. Let's come down here and we'll add another specular layer. And at first, our new specular layer is pretty much the same as the glass layer underneath. So we're just getting a bit more of an intense reflection. So to make this look a bit more like dirt or oil, we're going to pipe in some noise. So we'll grab our noise node and plug that into the roughness of our new specular layer. And now we've got a layer of dirt on here. And we can make that a bit easier to see if we come back to our noise and bring up the contrast. And now that's starting to look nice and oily, but we'll do what we did before and head over to the specular tab, and we'll just make this effect a bit more subtle by bringing this down. And there you go. You'll probably find the new layered material system a lot easier to use than the old mixed materials or blend materials, and I think it's definitely something I'll find myself using more and more. You can also bring the material layers in from straight over here if you wanted to, and we get all the same options in here. And just before we finish up, I'll quickly show you the layer group, which as the name implies, just allows you to group your layers. If we take a look at the layers tab, we can add layers or remove layers. So if we were to add a layer, we get the exact same options we had before. And this gives us the power to layer in groups of layers. So you can make some really complex materials. And if you had a bunch of these grouped, you can then layer them in to the main layered material. And obviously grouping things will keep your node editor nice and tidy. And that's about it for the layered material. It's a slightly different workflow, but one I think you're going to find very handy. And hopefully we'll have some more examples of this in the project section very soon.